So first of all, I forgot to do this at the top of the podcast, but I want to thank all of our followers on Blue Sky. We hit a milestone today,
Oh yeah.
10,000 followers on Blue Sky. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Blue Sedition podcast. I don't know what Mike's laughing about. I'm Nate Brady. He's my laughing co-host.
I'm Mike Smith. Welcome back, everyone.
Why are you laughing? What's going on?
I don't know. I think our intros have been kind of silly lately, and it just made me laugh.
You were thinking about a
I was
previous
like
intro?
a really serious face that I just got a tickle. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they've been a little silly. The shows have been a little silly too because the news has been a little silly.
Why has the news been silly?
Well, we have a whole bunch of items today, and we can talk about why the news is silly. I mean, we have.
All right.
Well, let's just dive right in. I wanted to first. What do we want to do? I'll let dealer's choice. You want to go woke pope or pharmacy price cuts? What do you want to do? Dealer's choice.
I want to get back to the woke poke. Talk to me about the pharmacy first, though.
Okay. All right. So
it'll put me in the properly demoralized mood, I'm sure.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. So Trump signs an executive order to reduce drug prices, but like everything that he does, really not sure how it's going to work. I mean, there's no clear like law. Obviously, executive orders aren't laws, right?
Right.
So that nobody has to do anything here. But the executive order basically directs these big pharma companies to lower the drug prices to match those in other developed countries.
Okay, so does that mean like Europe, or does that mean like get them as low as like India, which we know has like ridiculously low prices by comparison to American standards?
No, nobody knows.
Right.
Literally nobody knows. But they've been given 30 days to do what nobody knows they need to do.
Until he on that 30th day gives them a pause, and then some other things happen, and so.
Well,
it's interesting, like you said. Obviously he's not part of Congress, so he doesn't actually make laws. He signs them into effect, and that's the only way he can do this. Is executive orders really are only supposed to affect the executive branch of the government and like related, institutions that are either ancillary or whatever. But so if I'm a private company, or even publicly traded, and say I'm like, what's the one, the Lilly something or other?
Eli Lilly.
Eli Lilly. If I'm Eli Lilly, and I see this executive order saying you have to reduce your drug prices by 30%. I don't know what the numbers are actually going to be,
it's to match whatever you can't sell your drug in Canada for less than you sell it in the United States if you're a U.S. company.
Right. Okay. Make me like.
Well,
I'm not breaking any laws. What are you going to do when I ignore you?
That's the problem, right? So actually, Bernie,
I did see that they claimed that they were going to impose fines, right, on people, on companies that didn't listen or just ignored them. But I'm like, but those fines are not backed by any law either, so I can ignore them too. And what are you going to do about it? I mean, so it would be an interesting legal attempt to just be like, I don't. Go ahead. I'm not going to do it though.
So Bernie Sanders had something to say about this. Of course, Bernie has been a huge proponent of Medicare for all, of lowering prescription drug prices, and he's like, "Well, this is great." No, while this is good, right? It's unclear. Like there's no clear guidance. Nobody knows how it's going to work. So he is going to introduce legislation this week, I believe, that basically takes Trump's executive order and makes it law. But but
it's always been, he's always been a staunch advocate of like, reducing costs from medical, pharmaceutical treatments and things like that. So I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not also surprised to hear that he's doing it via politics and saying like, let's do what the president said. Let's do the thing.
Yeah.
Make it a
So
law.
obviously people hate him for that because, well, at least the centrist liberals that always claim to hate progressives, they're always like,
Mhm.
don't say you agree with Trump. You can never agree with Trump. Well, listen, a broken clock is right twice a day, and Trump is right on this. He's certainly wrong about the way he's going about it, about how he's implementing it, all of that stuff.
Right.
So Bernie
Yeah, yeah.
Sanders basically is calling his bluff because it
Yeah.
seems like that's what this is. It's something
Yeah, I
so that
agree.
his supporters can be like, oh, look what Trump did. Oh, he lowered drug prices. And then Trump in like 4 weeks is going to be like, you're paying 90% less for drugs than you ever were before. Meanwhile, you're probably paying more, you know? And it's just going to be something that he says. So Sanders is going, all right, bet.
Yeah.
Let's,
Yeah, yeah.
I want to say though, I think a really good angle to take to unite both Republicans and Democratic, at least the constituents behind this, is
Right.
to say, isn't it anti-patriotic to have Pfizer sell us the drug that they're selling Canadians for 10 times what they're selling Canadians? What do they hate Americans? Isn't
Yeah.
that a good angle to take?
I guess. I mean, I don't think that your average, well, maybe they do. I'm sure that they do. I take that back. But I was just going to say, I don't know what the visibility on that is for your average American. But then I remembered like when people were taking, drug vacations where they would go to Canada and buy up their year's supply of whatever drug they need to take to stay alive and then come back to the United States. So there's at least visibility from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, if you're a company, why are you gouging Americans so much? Maybe that's the angle you're talking about. Like, why do you price gouge Americans? Do you
Yeah,
think we're stupid?
yeah. So you think we're stupid or something? But I think yes, we are stupid in
We are
something.
stupid.
But now here's the flip side of this, which is why are we taking the angle of you can't sell us a drug for more than what you're selling it to a neighboring country or developed country or whatever? Because then doesn't the pharmaceutical company turn around and go, no, I guess we're gonna have to make it $500 in Canada as well.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
I mean, that's if I'm Eli Lilly or whoever, and I'm like, the diabetes medicine is $14 a thing over in Canada, and it's $86 here. I guess it's $86 everywhere.
Okay, so now the obvious response to that is they simply can't do that. The reason why they can do that here is because they're manipulating our system of health insurance, right? So
Sure.
health insurance, which is already a multi-billion-dollar industry, is covering the drug prices for most Americans, right? And so when I go, oh, I need my insulin shot, they're going, okay, well, it's $8 billion. And then Blue Cross Blue Shield is like, all right, I'm covering, your $8 billion whatever, shot here. But in Canada, they can't do that. In Britain, they can't do that because they'll say, the government will be like, you're not overcharging us. You're not going to do
Yeah, I
that
was going to
because
say
we're
that
paying
they
for it.
they have more of a stance because of the socialized aspect there. So
Right.
that the government is arguing for lower prices, and they
Right.
don't have to. They're not driven by market forces of competition
Right.
in the way that it is in America. And if you're driven by market price and competition, and you're the only drug company allowed to sell this medicine
Right.
because of patent laws for the next 7 years, you can charge whatever the fuck you want for it.
Exactly. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Bernie has called his bluff once before. On I think it was
Trump?
on the capping credit card interest rates to 10%.
Right,
Um,
right. Oh my God.
how's that working out? I have one credit card, which thankfully has a zero balance on that one, that is like 28.9% APR. Well, what
Mm-mm.
the fuck? And
No, and it's a huge. The debt market is gigantic. I
yeah,
mean, everybody's in debt. Everybody has thousands of dollars in credit card debt.
way more now because everybody's putting their groceries on credit cards now. I mean, things are
Yeah.
getting out of control. And I saw. I mean, I don't remember what the exact number was, but it's definitely going to get worse. And we're headed for a really bad time.
while it's unsustainable is at a certain point. And I think that this is the idea that gets lost a lot when people talk about like the national debt versus actual like held debt and things.
Yeah.
It's like at some point, people won't be able to make enough money to get out of debt. And when you hit a certain level of that across the entire country, the whole system collapses because you're just like, well, why the fuck am I going to work? I'm never going to pay this off. I'm just going to go bankrupt anyhow. Or fuck it. And now you've got trillions and trillions of dollars in personally held debt that no one's going to get repaid on, and the whole economy collapses and you're in the depression again.
So in early 2024, it looks like the household debt reached 18 trillion in the United States, with the average household or the average American owing about $104,000, including mortgage, auto loans, student loans, credit cards, and other debts. Including health debts, right? $104,000. So the breakdown of that.
But like you were saying before, if we take that and just dig in a little bit, Americans have always had mortgages and car debts, and like that's sort of expected now. But now you're also talking about student loan debts, obviously, but also credit card payments that are not getting completely paid off. They're buying their groceries, they're buying their gasoline, they're buying everything with credit cards, and they're making the minimum every month, and that debt is exploding for families. You might live in a nice house and you can afford it for now, and you might drive a nice car and you can afford it for now, but eventually that debt will pile up over the top of you and you won't be able to do anything.
The average debt for a single person in the United States is $45,000 between credit card and student loan. So that's not counting mortgage. If you have some home equity line of credit, that doesn't count as a credit card. Auto loan doesn't count as a credit card. So just student loan and credit card debt is $45,000 on average. That is insane.
That's a problem.
I saw you getting a little uncomfortable there.
That makes me uncomfortable, man. That's not good.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. That was the point I was trying to make before, is that there's a collapse coming, and I don't know how they're going to figure it out. Remember when Biden tried to clear out the student loan debts?
He tried to do some stuff. He tried to do some things, and then
he did. I mean, he was trying to do loan forgiveness for a certain percentage of, like, if you had this much and you were in the workforce or something, I don't remember, but so I think that he and his advisors also have the same problem, where they're like, no one's ever going to get out from this debt. We need to erase it to have an economy in 30 years, because these people need to produce and be part of it, and they can't do that if they're just going to have to declare bankruptcy and restart their life somewhere. And they didn't really fix it, and there's this new problem now. So I don't know, scares me.
Yeah, a little worrisome. Okay, let's go over to our next story. I think one of our last episodes we talked about JD Vance stabbing the Pope, or
JD Vance allegedly stabbing the Pope to death. Yes,
Pope, just Pope. You don't put the
just Pope. Sorry,
you just JD Vance stabbed Pope. There's a new Pope.
It's Steve Bannon.
And it's Steve. No, it's not Steve Bannon. It's this guy from Chicago. Now,
guys from Chicago.
Yeah. Now, I was rooting for Pope Pizzaballa. That's a
awesome
real name. I actually don't know what his stances are, so don't quote me on.
We have not dug deeper than
no research.
We saw that and we were like, wow,
it's got to be Pizzaballa. But no, instead we've got Pope. I'm sorry. What's Robert's? Somebody help me. Prevost. Cardinal Robert Prevost.
Yeah, Robert Provost.
Yeah, who is?
Was it Prevost or Provost?
It could be Prevo. I've known somebody who spelt that as Prevo the same way, so I don't know.
Really? Okay.
He's from Chicago, and he's your new woke Marxist Pope, according to Laura Loomer and other MAGA folk. So I'm at this point, though, I don't really know what an anti-woke Pope would even mean, because if a Pope is Christ-like,
right,
it sounds like they don't have a hardline stance on immigration. They don't have a hardline stance on like cleaning out those poor encampments, you know, like what's the right looking for in a pope?
Well, I remember what the right was looking for in a pope a few popes ago, and that was a pope who would sort of shuffle under the rug many of the Catholic
Mm,
Church's
mm,
indiscretions with
sure,
the youngsters in their masses, we'll say.
sure.
And when they said they have woke then, but they said the same thing. You know,
Right.
liberal pope is not. He's ousting these cardinals and clergy members who were parts of these things and trying to get them out of the church because they obviously committed these horrible atrocities. And that, so I guess they stand for abusing children. I don't know. It seems like that.
It's a really interesting dynamic in the United States, right? Because, you know, white Christian nationalism has exploded in, you know, the
Yeah.
past couple of decades. And it's seeming more and more, even though the several pastors and reverends and
Hmm.
priests and whatever have come out and said, hey, we, you know, this hate is unacceptable, all this, whatever. But it
Yeah.
feels to me, and I don't have numbers in front of me on this, but it feels to me like the Catholic Church in the United States is becoming increasingly more right leaning. At least its patrons are becoming more right leaning. But I don't know if that's true.
Frankly, I'm pretty, uh, out of Catholicism and Christianity sort of on the whole. So it's hard for me to say for certain. I will say that I've known Catholics, and obviously I went to a Jesuit school, and I, you know, taught a lot about religion and theology in particular. And I've always found those more um, strict adherences to those, like the Catholics and the Jesuits,
Yeah,
particularly,
yeah,
to be more conservative in nature, just
yeah,
because it aligns sort of thematically with their worldview and their philosophical and theological views.
yeah. I'm not. I don't know. And this is why I'd love to get my friend on the podcast one day. He's an
Yeah.
author that writes about religious studies and things like that. But one thing that I'm really interested in, I think conservatives, at least these new age conservatives, these MAGA Republicans, flock to Catholicism more because of the power structure than the message, right? Like this patriarchy power structure where, you know, the
Mhm.
man is closer to God, the, you know, the females are nuns and they're more
Subservient.
subservient, you
Yeah.
know. That's like the fit, because it's certainly not the message of Christ. And
No, no.
I was raised Catholic. I went to church, you know, regularly as a kid. I listened to those sermons and those messages,
Right.
and I gotta tell you, man, does not seem to align with what I'm hearing today. From like your regular, you go look at somebody's bio who claims that they're MAGA, guns, God, and family, right? Which
Right.
already that message right there does not seem to align with the message of the Catholic Church and a
Right.
Christ-like message. So
What I would say though is that I think that from my experience, there are two different types of Christian that I run into on a regular basis. And this new one that we're talking about here, this more conservative, more authoritarian in nature, tend to be in the more of the school of like Old Testament Christians, where they're like the, spare the stick, spoil the child sort of ideologies that are backed up by a lot of these Old Testament verses and chapters and things. And the New Testament, where Jesus exists and pray, does his stuff,
does his
is
stuff.
largely ignored by these folks. They don't talk about his miracles that he performed or his public services and things like that, because they're not interested in that. It's like you said, they're more interested in the power dynamic and using the cross as a cudgel is another one that I've heard before. Um, so there's definitely a type, but I also know a lot of Christians who are much more New Testament focused and much more in the spirit of love and like love thy neighbor and honor thy father and mother and all that stuff that comes out of the New Testament.
So here's
I don't know
something.
who's winning, but
Yeah.
I do think that those are the flavors.
So here's some really interesting numbers that I just looked up here. Um, the differences between the Republican and the Democratic Party, and then it ends with a really interesting note.
Okay.
So the Republican Party is more Protestant and evangelical. The Democratic Party, Protestant and Christian to a lesser degree. So the Republican Party has, a higher level of a higher percentage of its base is religious versus the Democratic Party. So it's saying around 8% of the Republican Party doesn't believe in God, whether atheist or agnostic or whatever. And while around 21%, so like 1 in 5 Democrats identify as agnostic or atheist, right?
Yeah.
What's really interesting in these numbers is when you look at the congressional representation, which for both is almost 100% Christian.
Yeah, and for the longest time to be an elected official in either the House or the Senate, you had to be a good Christian and you had to be at church, documentedly so that the news can look at it and be like, wow, he's a Christian, he's in church, because it's synonymous with getting the rubber stamp for a good person. I mean, we're seeing that that's not the case anymore, obviously, because I know a bunch of Christians who are very, very shitty people. But
I mean, we remember Trump holding Bibles upside down, and
selling Bibles, for instance.
Sure, with his gold pen, over the cover. I mean, come on. So yeah. Anyway, supposedly we have a new woke pope.
He's woke.
Supposedly, I have seen he's taken the name Leo the 14th. I have seen some great stuff from him. Like, I think it's quoting in this article here. He made a tweet about JD Vance being wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others, where JD Vance was basically talking about how he prioritized love for certain people over other people, whatever. But what's also interesting is that I haven't looked into this yet. I have heard that this Pope has maybe had some issue with the LGBTQ community. So I'm not all in on him yet. I haven't done my research, but I at least from what I can tell so far, it at least seems like he is more left-leaning socially than Pope's pre Francis, right?
Here's how I'll phrase it. He's doing the right things right now.
Right.
He's staying out of the news, so I'm not hearing anything about him, except when I do hear things about him, he's upsetting the right people. So he gets a pass for a little while.
Yeah. He's a liberal piece of shit. Like, imagine Joey Manorino. Oh, I don't even want to talk about that guy. I can't stand
Good. I don't know who that is.
Good. I'm surprised, but good. All right, let's move on from woke Pope. This is exciting. We're getting a new Air Force One, probably, maybe, but probably not. So how do you say? Listen, I've always said Qatar. Okay.
I've said Qatar. Yeah.
Okay, but I've heard.
How's it actually pronounced?
I've heard Qatar recently. Qatar, and I'm going, oh wow, have I been saying it wrong all this time? So I don't know. Let us know in the comments if it's Qatar or Qatar. I'm gonna go with Qatar just because that's what that's how I've always said it in my mind when I read stories. But I'm probably wrong. So
Google says it's Qatar.
Like that's it gives the phonetic pronunciation.
No, you hit a button and it says it out loud and you can hear it in your speakers.
It says Qatar. Okay.
This is Qatar.
Okay. Well, anyway,
new plane, who dis?
The new plane, who dis? The government of Qatar has offered to replace Air Force One with a $400 million plane used by Boeing, a Boeing plane similar to the one used by Ronald Reagan that was decommissioned and put on display as a museum piece. So, couple problems with this, as you may imagine.
Is this just a bribe? What is this?
This is a bribe.
Okay.
This is just a straight up bribe. So here's the problem. Okay, so first,
I'll
Qatar.
put it, if you come to me
Okay, all
and
right.
you're like, I want to give you a $400 million gift.
Okay, sure.
The very first word out of my mouth would be, why?
Yeah,
I wouldn't say thank you yet, but
right.
some people have fewer scruples than I do.
Okay. So uh they're offering Trump what I think they called it, like I think it's being dubbed like the castle in the sky, or a palace in the sky.
Castle in this, yeah, something
Palace
like
in the sky.
Palace.
It's a Boeing 747-8 jet. Um here's Trump is saying this is not a gift to me. It's a gift to the government. It's a gift to the United States government. That's actually not true. What's actually happening, as it turns out, is this is going to be like a donation to the Trump Presidential Library. If this is how I'm understanding it, such that even if it's ready to be used as Air Force One during Trump's presidency, which it's very likely will not be, we can talk about why in a moment. It will be his to use after his presidency is over. So basically, it's a gift to him. Okay, so
what's the distinction there? Like, does it belong to the people because it's a gift to the government, and Trump can't keep it after he's no longer president because he's no longer president and it belongs to the people?
So
or is it a gift to him and he promises to give it to a library after he's gone?
No. The workaround is they're technically donating it to the Trump Presidential Library, which mean like they're making it seem like it's a donation to the government. It's actually not. So here's what's going to happen. This is the last I read on it. Okay, we could be somewhere else today, right now, but the last I've read on it is we're going to pay for the upgrades on this, because here's what needs to happen. If you just accept the plane from a foreign government, who, by the way, everybody on the right has said has ties to Hamas and terrorist organizations, that plane is going to go into the sky and then it's going to come down in a way that you don't want it to come down, right? So what you have to do, if you're not,
Qatar has the chance to do the funniest thing ever here.
If you're not a complete fool, is you have to take this plane in and you have to do several upgrades on it, including all the security precautions necessary to upgrade a plane to Air Force to be usable as Air Force One.
Well, that's the other thing, just right there.
Right.
Even if I'm getting this from an ally, let's say that England wants to give us this plane.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the NSA is like, yeah, just go up in that plane and talk national secrets at 35,000 feet? No problem.
No.
They're not going to take a sweep of that plane and strip it down to its nuts and bolts and make sure that there's no audio equipment or anything like that spying on us.
So part of the reason why Trump has been giving Boeing such a hard time, because he wanted a new Air Force One, he instructed Boeing to make the big beautiful plane, right? Is that every single person and every single parts maker, if you're making a screw for the plane for Air Force One, you have to go through a national security background check, right? And so now you're just gonna take a plane from Qatar? That's just what? This doesn't make any sense. This is so obviously a bribe. Of course, Trump routinely misrepresents the plane's value and luxuriousness in the media, claiming that it costs $100 million. Not true. I mean, I like this article is calling it the bribe jet. Used infrequently by the royal family, the bribe jet has so far only accumulated about 1,000 hours, meaning it was flown only 2 hours per week on average, according to Bloomberg. Its interior was outfitted in creamy white and tan furnishings. Well, that will all be gold. It's not clear how many of the features Air Force One will add to the bribe jet or what security clearance those working on it will need. yeah, I mean, so much work has to go into this, and we will pay for all of that work.
Right. Right.
And then Trump will be able to use that personally after he leaves office, if he ever leaves office. If this isn't hell, and
and it's unclear,
and right now the
but it's
jury
feeling
is still
like it
out.
might be.
It's still out.
You
so
know, I want, obviously, because of my biases, I want this to be, you know, the worst news ever. So I looked up how many Air Force Ones there have ever been.
mm-hmm.
It looks like the answer might be 7.
Okay.
And, you know, in fairness, the first one of the jet age really ran from 1962 to 1990.
Wow.
And it had repairs, and it remained back up until 1998 technically. And so that's 40 years almost. And then the current one has been running since 1990. I mean, that's 35 years. So I mean, maybe they are due for a new Air Force One, but
not a bribe jet.
Not a bribe jet.
Not Bribe Force One.
Maybe not a bribe jet.
I mean, we're at the point where even staunch Republicans are saying, "Whoa, wait a minute." You know, the people that we would never agree with on anything are like, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this." I mean, this is so obviously a bribe.
Yeah.
The current Air
and
Force...
the other thing is that it still has that air of Trump, or the smell of Trump on it, with the deal, the art of the deal. So like you said, you know, he's going to use it for his library. So you're going to decommission an Air Force One, and then you're going to have this new bribe jet for, let's be, you know, nice and say 2 years. The last 2 years of your presidency, let's pretend that it's done by then, and he can use it for 2 years. Then a new president comes into place, and he just keeps Air Force One while the old one is decommissioned. Does that mean that we have to make a new Air Force One?
Another one. Yeah, we would basically, basically need another one, right?
Yeah, unless, I mean, you know, if it was a normal president, you'd be like, well, he's going to donate that to you know, the administration or whatever.
So
make it the People's Air Force One.
Here's apparently some of the huge differences between the current Air Force One and this Qatari jet, Bribe Force One. Okay.
Right.
Obviously heavily modified for security. It includes anti-missile systems, right? Can't be shooting at Air Force One. Nuclear blast protection, secure communications, and the ability to refuel in midair. These are all features that this current Qatari jet does not have, according to this.
Yeah. No, you're like, these are the must-haves for Air Force One,
right.
And your bribe jet doesn't have that.
Your bribe jet doesn't have that.
Just seems like a really bad deal for Americans.
Seems like a pretty bad deal for us and a pretty great deal for Trump. So I mean, art of the deal again, where it helps Trump.
It always works out for Trump. Yeah, I was going to say,
for Trump and screws everybody else. Okay.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. I think this one's funny, so we can move on here. You can talk to me about this. Trump says activist judges, some he appointed, aren't letting him do the job. What does this mean?
So you're going to have to give me a little context here, but I have my suspicions as to what this is in reference to. I think that Trump has been getting upset about the pushback from the court systems, judges that he's appointed, in cases like, I want to deport this guy. What do you mean I have to give him due process? Just get out of my way so I can do my job.
Right. That's basically it. He thinks that because he was elected, he doesn't need to follow laws anymore.
No, I think that he, you know, seems to be laboring under the false assumption that he is the law and makes the law.
Right.
He continually espouses that, but also his executive orders, by and large, are ones like, you will do this. This is the law now. And
I mean,
judges are like, no, it's not.
You remember
Executive orders are not law.
You remember the I don't remember what it was. It was some presser or something where he had a bunch of mayors or governors, and the mayor of sorry, I keep saying mayor.
Vermont or something.
The governor of Maine.
Maine.
Had a comment about his anti-trans, agenda, and she was like, well, we're following the law, and he said, we are the law. And
he said, are you going to comply with the executive order? And she
said, I'll follow the law.
Sort of hotly, I will follow the law.
Right.
And he's like, we are the law. And she goes, you're not the law.
I'll see you in court.
The law.
I'll see you in court.
Yeah, I'll see you in court. I mean, that's the way you push back against a bully.
Yeah, and I mean that's truly what he thinks. I mean, recently in that interview, I think it was with ABC, he was asked, are you going to follow the Constitution and due process rights? And he was like, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, we would have to have millions of so if you have to have millions
trials, he was upset about the number of trials he'd have to do to deport the number of people he wants to deport.
Yeah. Do you think
he's like, follow the law? Do you know how long that's going to take?
I can't follow the law.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Of course we know how long it's going to take, so that everybody gets a fair shake of it. It's the whole part and premise of this country.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring up, he's still going on about activist judges, about
place.
Right. That a lot of them are Trump appointed federal judges that are now like, hey, thanks for the seat, pal, but no, you can't do that. I just remembered, did the Diddy trial start today? That's going to be interesting. We have no news on the Diddy trial, but I believe it started today. You have to go to some other podcast.
I don't know, man.
I'm gonna stay away from that one for now. Janine Pirro. Now,
is that how you pronounce it?
I believe it's Janine Pirro.
Huh.
Pirro?
Right.
Is it Pirro?
I think Pirro.
I think it's Pirro.
I don't know. I don't watch her show. I never hear it said, so I don't know.
Well, she does set things on fire.
There you go.
Cecily Strong from SNL used to do a really good impression of her, often in cold opens, where she's just drunk and like yelling at the camera on Fox, which is really close, allegedly. I don't know if Janine has a drinking problem. Maybe she does allegedly have a drinking problem, but it seems to me, and help me out here, that Trump is putting people from his favorite TV shows in top positions in the federal government. Am I right on that, or am I wrong?
Nailed it. Nailed it. No, you're right. You're spot on.
God, what do you make of this?
Well, the last mainstream DUI hire he made has been dropping the ball a lot. In national security matters, and I think is catching a lot of rightful flack on news organizations about.
You're talking about the Hegseth.
That's that Hegseth.
Okay, that's the last DUI hire.
And so maybe Trump's just like, you know what he needs? He needs a drinking buddy. That's what Hegseth needs. He needs a drinking buddy on the job. They'll straighten it all out. I'll get another one up there, and it'll be great.
Okay. She's been on Fox for the last 20 years.
Okay.
So she had some experience as a county judge, where she was elected in New York in 1990, and then became a district attorney, and then spent the last 20 years yelling and screaming at us about every conspiracy theory, every caravan marching towards the border, everything for the last 20 years. She was suspended, if you remember, by Fox in 2019 for making remarks about Ilhan Omar, saying that her Muslim beliefs are, probably conflict with the U.S. Constitution. Is she going to be?
Why would Fox put her on the bench for that? That seems like right in line with Fox's main message.
True. But can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
What's your over/under for how many Senate Democrats approve her nomination? She hasn't been approved yet, so we can revisit this next week after she's almost definitely approved. Are we going all of them? You know, are we? Because we're fighting, right? We're fighting against this kind of crap.
God damn it! I without having thought about it for 1 second, I would say 0 Democrats will vote to confirm her. However, you just pointed out, oh, well, she was a judge and she did become a DA, and well, she's got a background in law. Maybe this is an okay nomination, even though she's clearly a conspiracy theorist who was on a talk news show for 20 years.
Right.
And you're right. We're probably going to get some Democrats who are going to think that way and vote to confirm her.
Now, remember, confirmation only needs a simple majority, but like the last couple of nominees that Trump has had go through, can we just go back to Marco Rubio? You remember how Marco Rubio is basically the worst human being we could have imagined, like we thought possible. He was confirmed unanimously by the Senate. I just want to remind people.
One absent, right?
Was it one? Yeah, I think it was one. Yeah. And I don't even remember who that one was. Is this what it? So here's what I expect will happen. Maybe an hour before, you know, her floor vote, you know, on the Senate for confirmation after the Judiciary Committee advances her to Senate vote. Maybe Cory Booker will have a nice little speech
on the floor of the House,
and then vote to confirm her. I mean, what are we doing, man?
Please.
What are we doing?
I don't know, man. It's clear that that they're just going through the motions and they're trying to make enough noise to continue the campaign contributions, but not enough noise to actually change anything.
Right.
The person Trump had picked for this job before was like the husband of somebody in his cabinet, right? Do I have that right? Like, I don't remember but
I don't remember.
But it was interesting hearing that he had his name pulled out at the end of it because he was so widely despised. It seemed that no one would ever like vote for him. And he was an obvious like power grab for Trump because he was like an always Trumper. I'm going to get him whatever he needs. If I have to bring in the militia to overthrow the whatever in DC, then I'll do it.
No, that sounds like something I vaguely remember.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is just another. This is another Hegseth. This is another DUI hire allegedly. I don't want to get sued or whatever. You know what? There's a story that happened that we don't have on our list that I want to just talk about right now because we should talk about it because
let's do it.
He's a popular figure. And hold on, let me bring up a good story or a good page on it. Sure. And then we'll put it in the show notes as well. So I'm going to throw this at you live. Hasan Piker. Hasan Piker was detained recently. Here we go. Here's the story. Let me share this from the Washington Post. Twitch star Hasan. Okay, I don't want any. Wait, do I have to? No, I'm not giving WAPO any money. I refuse to do it. I refuse to do it. I'm blocked here. Let's go to a different site. Maybe the New York Times won't make me pay to see this. Oh God. Hey, can I ask you a question? How do I look at news? Do I have to pay for all the news?
You type AP after it when you search for it. I'll just shoot you a link you can use here.
I got one. We'll just have to use some local. Okay. We'll use
sure.
Delmarva's news leader. Okay. Shout out to Delmarva, wherever the hell Delmarva is. Popular Turkish American online political commentator detained, questioned at Chicago airport. So Hasan has already come out. So those of you that don't know, Hasan is a popular Twitch streamer. I think he's probably the most popular, most followed, most viewed political Twitch streamer. He is very, very left leaning. He is related to Cenk Uygur, though I believe they differ in a lot of ways. Cenk Uygur from
they're related. I didn't know
that. He's his nephew.
Wow.
I'm surprised you didn't know that. I'm not surprised you didn't know that. I need to stop saying I'm surprised you didn't know that. Because I'm never surprised that you didn't know something. All right. Anyway, so despite even being a U.S. citizen, he was still detained by U.S. Custom and Border Protection and he said they were asking me about my my politics. They were asking me about Hamas and about Hezbollah and Houthis. They were trying to get him to make statements that would basically lead to a longer or more permanent detention.
Right. Anything to sort of trump up some plausible deniability for we're detaining you because you're sympathetic to the Hamas or Houthi people, whatever.
Right. I mean,
kind of a silly attempt, but same.
But this is getting closer to what we've been warning about, which a lot of people have been warning about.
Yeah.
They're going to come for immigrants first. They're going to come for green card holders next. They're going to come for student visas. Then they're just going to start coming for American citizens. And we're pretty much there. If you're an American citizen that is critical of this administration, you have to now be worried about flying, going out of the country, crossing a border.
And not just because the planes are falling out of the sky.
Not just because of that, but because of being detained and having this happen. Now, Piker is a very high. What's really interesting to me is that Piker is such a high profile individual that I'm surprised that they would do this, especially with he's so high profile and has such a young following. These are the type of people that are going to go out there and make some noise. If you grabbed Noam Chomsky, who can't talk anymore, can't write anymore,
right?
I would hope that people would go out and scream about it, but I'm not sure as much as grabbing somebody like Hasan. So if you run a podcast called the Blue Sedition Podcast, I mean, you have to worry. Even though I am a white American, I am now. I'm in that line. It's that first they came for poem.
Right.
And if you don't speak up now and you keep telling them that this stuff is okay, it's eventually going to get to you, no matter what side you're on. Because if you allow some crazy Republican to do this, who's to say some crazy Democrat isn't going to come in and do the same thing? Oh, you're still MAGA? You're still MAGA? All right, we're going to come after you. We're going to detain you. You're a little now. See, it got you nervous. You don't even want to talk politics anymore. See, it's working. It's working.
One thing I will say on this story that I think is probably important is that we follow a lot of law folks, obviously Legal Eagle and Popat and all these others who are very vocally against this administration in particular, but just vocal about your rights as an American citizen as well. And they were like, Hasan did this very poorly. He should have shut his mouth after I want my lawyer and then not spoken at all. And they recommend that if you are an American citizen and being questioned in this way, you say that and then shut up. So there's a bit of a free advice for everybody from actual lawyers.
Yeah, I think what you just did is aiding and abetting criminals, though, as far as I understand it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to give any advice whatsoever, or they're going to look at that being terrorism.
Is Elon going to post a comment on this video and he says, what you have done is a crime?
Illegal! Yeah, he might just do that.
Elon, if you're listening, thanks for being a supporter, guys. That's always nice. Leave us a like.
Man. Thank you. He gave me a blue check mark before. So thanks so much. I'm not using your Nazi site though. Okay. I guess we got one last thing to say. We got to scurry out of here. Mike and I have to go on about our day because we have a lot of food debt to pay off. So one more. sorry. One more item to go over today. Republican concedes long unsettled North Carolina court election to Democrat incumbent. I didn't think that this was going to happen.
I didn't either. I mean, we've been covering this sort of topic for the last 2 months, 3 months. Oh, Jesus Christ. 6 months? 6 months. Okay. And this guy, the GOP candidate, had shown such wanton disregard for political norms and political processes in obviously trying to get legal workarounds to win this election that he lost. I never thought we would see a concession. I just figured he would do the Trump thing and keep claiming he was the winner for the rest of time. And he conceded. So
right.
There you go.
I mean, so the reason he conceded was that the district court handed down a ruling, and he said that while I don't agree with this, I'm done appealing. He says, quote, just as I have respected every judicial tribunal that has heard this case, he respects the court's holding. So Riggs is expected to get the certificate of election today, May 13th. So
wow, I didn't know that.
So exciting. And that was the last undecided 2024 race. And there it is. Settled.
It's May 13th in 2025. Why did it take this long?
I mean, I think Carrie Lake is still trying to be governor of Arizona.
Carrie Lake. Yeah, no, this was a big one, and it showed the hand the GOP is going to be playing for the next several election cycles. And that's one of, when we lose, we're going to keep suing until we actually have won. Because facts don't matter to them and they have no scruples.
The midterms are going to be something incredible. They really are.
I mean, incredible is the worst possible word. Unless there's even now, unless there's a landslide, you're not going to see concessions. And if there's a landslide, you're not going to see concessions for even longer because they're going to claim fraud and this, that, and the other.
Except for on the opposite side, where the Democrats will go quietly into that sweet night. What do you want the Democrats to do? Do you want them to when they go low, Democrats go high? Like, what do they do in this situation?
You can't anymore. I mean, there was a time when Republicans would go low and it was tongue in cheek and it was, veiled and masked,
low blows,
but it was there.
and dog whistles.
And the Democrats were political high ground, like, we see what you're doing. We're not going to do that. But now they're just out there fighting now. They're deliberately ignoring laws and they're trying to win through weird court filings and lawsuits and all the other ways. And claiming fraud, claiming election interference, claiming that illegals are voting. And the Democrats they're playing a different game. We've been saying it every episode here. The Democrats need to get in there and start fighting with these dogs. They can't let them do this unopposed.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I don't know what the response will be. Like, if you're a Democrat and you lose an election, I mean, do you fight it? Do you drag it out so that the Republican can't get seated until May of 2025 and until May of 2028? I mean, is that what we need to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I hope it doesn't come to that.
I would like it to not, but I don't see.
You might have to make it come to that, because think about it for a second. Think about it for 1 second here.
Mm-hmm.
We have the benefit of hindsight now, right?
Sure.
We can look at like the 2000 election with Gore and know if he had just kept fighting it, and even though the Supreme Court was stupid at the time and did these things, if he just kept suing and suing and suing like this did here, he actually would have won.
Right.
But he didn't, because he wanted the political high road, and it sent us to hell. But you know, so that's what I'm saying, is like, if you honestly think that you're the winner, you have to fight this way now. This is how you can't be like, okay, you got me on a technicality, or oh, okay, some ballots weren't 100%, you know, to standard, but they were filed and they should be counted, and you're not going to. I'll accept this loss for some reason and walk away. It's unacceptable as a Democratic, a running Democrat campaigner.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is a good place to end. I mean, we can talk about Stephen Miller.
No, we're not going to talk about Stephen Miller.
All right.
Alleged Nazi Stephen Miller can fuck off for another episode.
Okay. Hopefully by next episode, we haven't suspended habeas. So we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it next episode. So I think that's it for today. So first of all, I forgot to do this at the top of the podcast, but I want to thank all of our followers on Blue Sky. We hit a milestone today, 10,000 followers on Blue Sky. We did it. We have made it. I showed my mom. I printed it out. It's on the refrigerator. My mom is calling me. She said, I don't know what you sent me. I don't understand what that means. My son,
I have been showing my wife. I'm like, every day I'm like, look, we're getting closer. We're getting closer.
9.8, 9.9. We were at 9,999 all night last night. And then
sitting there.
We got one lucky person. Can we see who it was? Yeah, we can still see who it was. Let me see. Maddie Shorman. Maddie Shorman was our 10,000th follower. So thanks, Maddie. PhD student at UT Austin, studying religion, foreign policy, and Cold War Latin America. Man, that is awesome.
Sounds interesting. I dig it.
My latest article on the Vatican's quiet yet powerful intelligence legacy. All right, I'm going to read that after.
There you go.
All right. Okay, so once again, thank you everybody very much. Please like, subscribe, follow on Blue Sky if you're not already. What else, Mike? We don't want your money. We're not asking for your money. We just want your likes and your subs.
We just want to farm those things. Yeah. And leave us a comment. Tell us how to actually pronounce some of these things.
Yeah, is it Qatar or Qatar? Okay, let us know. Maybe it's different for natives, or maybe natives that speak English. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows? So, okay.
Someone in the comments will know.
Somebody will definitely know. So please leave a comment, and we will catch everybody next Tuesday, same time, same place. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.